Quick note on our show today. We are breaking it up into two parts. Part one coming right at you, and part two coming later this week. I think we're live.
All right.
I think
I'm
we're
going to try to
live.
peak the levels just so that it might be easier to line it up.
Gotta peak
All
those
right.
levels.
It's action on your favorite two old friends, breaking down cinema's latest trends, looking at movies from a different lens. Zach and Ben are picture pals. These guys ain't run-of-the-mill film bros, got interviews with lots of real film pros. Grab that popcorn and away we go. Zach and Ben are picture pals. Zach and Ben are picture pals.
Welcome to Picture Pals. This is the podcast about movies.
What is it? The podcast about movies?
Yeah, that's it.
This is Picture Pals, the podcast about movies. I'm Ben,
I'm Zach.
and we are the...
Picture Pals. You know that. You heard the intro.
So, as you might have guessed, this is a new podcast. I think the vision for this podcast is obviously we're going to discuss film. I want to bring in some guests, friends of ours, who are kind of up-and-coming talent, young filmmakers, creatives, some young business executives that we both know. And then I think, larger commentary on industry news, trends. Obviously, the hot topic right now is awards.
The big show.
The big
The
show.
Grammys coming up.
The Grammys coming up, yeah. Yeah, maybe in Canada. I know you guys get the broadcast a few months later.
Do you mean the Junos?
The Junos, is that the Canadian Music Awards?
Benjamin, please. The Junos are an institution.
What are the Canadian Oscars?
They do have a name. I am confident of that. What that name is, I could not tell you. Nobody
Wow.
knows. I don't think anyone's watched it. You can probably check it out on your local CBC feed. Actually, I wanted to talk to you, Ben, about this a little bit, about how you feel the podcast is going to split between being, talking about some of the things you mentioned, like the industry, the forces at play, how it's working, like, for instance, the Oscars and who has the best chance, versus, like, your subjective opinion of some of these films, and, like, how much of the creative piece you see coming into how we do this.
Yeah, I think we'll strike a good balance given our personalities and our in the way we approach film. We both are lovers of film and we both have an interest in the industry itself. And so I think we could probably strike a solid balance between like diving into the script of The Brutalist versus what the industry might need right now, which is more of a commercial hit to bring people back into the theaters.
But I wanted to move into talking about the Oscars a little bit. How does that sound?
It is the industry's most prestigious award. The industry being film industry, we have the Emmys for TV. This is not, TV pals. This is Picture Pals. So focus mainly on film.
Yeah, focusing on film, I think it's safe to say the thing that both of us like the most, what we find the most interesting, and maybe what people will find more interesting too. But the Oscars, how do you feel about the Academy Awards this year in general?
I'm feeling interested. It is this is a bad way to describe it. I think it's like it's a very open season. I think there are some years where clear frontrunners are out there and the industry has coalesced around stories, whether it's an actor or an actress or a director or best picture. And I think this is a very interesting season. I think there's a whole part of this, which is like the marketing and the awards packaging that PR people do. But besides that, on like a general level, if you're like polling a general population, I think it's a very open season when it comes to it. How do you feel?
I totally agree. I think it's a really weird year, to be honest. I think it's, at least for as long as I've been tracking the Oscars, like one of the most wide open races in many categories, which makes it very fun, honestly. We think about years like last year where we had Oppenheimer kind of running the show, awards show after awards show after awards show all season. Like, to be able to really have no idea how some of these categories are going to go is really exciting. Although, we are going to make some predictions here, and we're going to be wrong a lot, probably.
So, look, you want to dive into it? You want to do the predictions, then maybe we do a deeper discussion?
Yeah. How do you want to do this? You want to start from Best Picture, or you want to start and build up to it?
Let's start with I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, why not start with your best foot forward?
All right, Best Picture it is. Okay, so let me just go through the nominees real quick just so we have it, and everyone listening knows, or the person listening knows, what is nominated this year, if they somehow are listening to this podcast and they don't know. Okay, so we have Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. Ben, when you hear this list, what jumps out at you?
Few things jump out at me, both like on I would say like on film appreciation side, but also on maybe more of a business side. For instance, Wicked is a huge commercial success. It's got one producer on it, which I think is really appealing to some of these voters. But you also see more classic Best Picture contenders, Anora, The Brutalist, even Emilia Perez, who has been sweeping kind of the awards leading up to the Oscars. They all offer very different things. I mean, Emilia Perez and Wicked are musicals, for instance. Honora, Brutalist are more contemplative films. Then you have, like, Complete Unknown. It's great. I don't think anyone left the theater of A Complete Unknown saying, oh, that was a bad movie.
They might question if it was a movie.
Yeah, or a music video. And then you even have Dune Part 2, and maybe you have, like, the Nickel Boys and I'm Still Here is maybe the most indie of them all, when it comes to budget and it comes to way it was shot and subject matter. Like, how do you feel reading this list over? Like, it's a potpourri.
Potpourri, indeed. Indubitable potpourri is.
Is potpourri French?
Yes. It's rotten flesh. Po, skin, pourri, rotten. So make of that what you will. I don't think we have a rotten list here, though. I liked a lot of the movies on this list, some more than others, but on the whole, I liked them all. I thought it was really interesting what you said about the producers, because I think Best Picture, while the award goes to the producers, it's one of those categories where people aren't really voting, or Academy members aren't really voting, I believe, for the person who ends up taking home the trophy. Because of it is in the way that you would for actress or actor or some of these below the line things there. When it comes to Best Picture, you're voting really for the film in its entirety. And I think nothing really demonstrates that better than a couple of films on the list didn't even have listed the producers that were going to be nominated until after the nominations came out. The Brutalist for sure was one of them, and another one as well. I can't remember. But I think that is really interesting. But in terms of this list, I agree with you that it's a really well-rounded list. Some blockbusters, some smaller films, a lot of things that I really enjoy. What to you stands out as maybe not what you think might win, but which ones here kind of tug at your heartstrings did you find the most enjoyable?
Yeah, I really enjoyed a number of films on this list. I think Conclave is the most 10 out of 10, a 7 out of 10 film could be. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a good political thriller. I thoroughly enjoyed the film. I thought The Brutalist was beautifully shot. I thought the script story on that at times lacked a little bit. And I have to say, out of everyone on the list, I think Anora is probably up there with what I would consider to be a strong contender, both story, visually, and kind of like how I would want a Best Picture to be. That being said, I enjoyed A Complete Unknown and I enjoyed Wicked too, but I think when I'm thinking of what is the film that represents the film industry this year, Anora is a strong contender for how that feels. Sean Baker has been knocking on the door with Florida Project, with Red Rocket recently. And this was a really good, strong effort by him. I mean, I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I don't think I was necessarily as high on Anora as I was on some of his other films, but I certainly had a good time in the theater. Absolutely. Anora was solid. For me, it wasn't in that top tier of the nominees. But I do see why it is so beloved. I think one thing that is often said about the Academy is that they are voting for the film that they want to be known as voting for. Mm-hmm. Sort of like a aspirational voting of who they want to be as a body. And I think that's like an interesting lens to think about it. And I certainly think that Anora fits the bill there. I just hit my microphone with my wrist. Sorry, listener. For me, I think that I quite enjoyed Conclave. I think that it is better than a 7 out of 10. I don't know if it's my favorite on here, but I think it was very good. Nickel Boys, extremely unique film. For those of you who don't know, listening at home, for our one listener listening at home, hey Kelvin, how you doing? Nickel Boys is filmed entirely from a first person perspective, which is you are looking through the eyes of the character and seeing what they see. Doesn't always work, I will say, but it is a big swing and is really interesting and is very affecting the way they do it. I just checked out I'm Still Here. It was the last one I had to see on the list just a couple days ago. And that one, I think, is kind of riding a surge right now a little bit, especially with international audiences. It's, of course, a Brazilian film. It's in Portuguese, set in the 70s, about a woman and basically living under fascism. And certainly some people are connecting with that story. And it's very well done, sort of a classic movie in a way that, I think some people are latching onto The Brutalist for. But maybe doesn't swing as big as The Brutalist, which is much more epic in scale. So there's a lot of really good things on this list, a lot of interesting things, a lot of things that, I think we wouldn't have seen nominated a few years ago. And that's really exciting.
Like The Substance, for instance.
The Substance. Exactly. Did you see The Substance?
I haven't, actually.
I'm glad I called you out on that.
Wow. I have something to call you out on later, but we'll save it for some later banter.
Right. I saw The Substance, and I will say that it is the most I have felt in the movie theater, and it was because it gave me an upset stomach, because I found it to be rather gross. But I think it's the attention that it's getting is well-deserved. It is very unique. I'm just a little bit sensitive, I think.
Body horror isn't your thing. You're not like a David Cronenberg body horror guy.
Not historically. Don't always love it whenever I see it. But, I do what I can. I try to see it all.
What do you think about the controversy around Emilia Perez? I think we can bifurcate the controversy between cast controversy and also, there is some content controversy around some circles, whether it's more conservative circles or not. I'm not commenting on the politics of it, but do you think, given the way that Best Picture is voted for, which is a ranked voting, that could hurt Emilia Perez in the long run?
Yeah, I definitely think that is a thing that is on a lot of people's minds as it relates to this film. For the people who don't know, you want to explain what that ranked choice really means?
Yeah, so ranked choice is those who might live in some jurisdictions in Maine or Alaska might know this is you kind of rank your films from first to 5th or 6th or 7th or 10th. I don't know how far it goes.
You can do as many as you want.
So you can do as many as you want, and then those totals are aggregated. So the film with the lowest total at the end is ostensibly the one that gets the nomination. So if you rank Anora 1, Brutalist 2, Complete Unknown 3, and everyone else ranks A Complete Unknown 1, Anora 2, Brutalist 3, ostensibly a Complete Unknown will end with 6 points, Brutalist 8 points, Anora 10 points, and then a Complete Unknown wins. And so there's this thought that since Emilia Perez is so polarizing, it's going to be ranked 1 or 2 by a number of voters, but then ranked 9 or 10 by a whole other section of voters, which will allow an Anora, a Substance, a Wicked, a Conclave to kind of rise up and snag that spot. Maybe there's no overall consensus about what is the best film of the year, but there's an overall consensus about what is the second or third best film of the year, and that could overall bring it to the forefront.
Yeah, it's an interesting system for sure, and like rewarding sort of the best, most liked film by the most people is, well, it tests the boundaries of what you would consider best to mean to some people. But like, how else are you going to do it? I guess I think it's really interesting, and the idea that the people who voted for the film on this list that gets the least amount of votes. Which would be an interesting question for you, Ben. But they effectively don't have to have that first choice wasted. That like their second choice becomes meaningful to how the points are tallied. I think that's really great, and it lets people really vote for what they love instead of trying to vote for what they think will win. I guess.
Yeah, totally agree. And like a ranked choice voting is like inherently non-reductive. So if you only choose one film, you're reducing 10 films to 1 based on a certain set of criteria that you as an individual has. It's both kind of standardizes it a little bit by opening up the possibility that people can rank 1 and 2 and 3 based on different criteria of what might be the best. It's hard to compare Wicked and Nickel Boys, right?
Very hard.
And so if you're choosing between the two, one is if you're just choosing Best Picture between the two, and those are your 2 favorite films of the year, it's hard to do. But with ranked choice, you can put one as number 1 and one as number 2, and then you can kind of elevate both art forms without having to dive into subjective criteria on apples to oranges.
One thing that I love so much about the Academy Awards is that very fact that you can have that tiny Nickel Boys or that that complete unknown movie, I'm Still Here, up against a Wicked, up against a Dune Part 2, or these multi-$100 million behemoths that everybody's heard of and everybody has, either enjoyed or spent the last 6 months being annoyed at, that they can go...
A complete unknown movie up against a complete unknown.
Yes, you could say that I just made that joke in the last paragraph that I said, but you might have missed it. That's all right too. I'm looking at this list, and I think maybe, Ben, we should talk about, let's put our money where our mouth is and make some predictions here. Actually, I would love to hear both what you think is going to win in your cold analytical brain and what you hope to win in your soft, supple heart.
Ooh. Okay, so analytical brain, I think I'll say Anora, and I think that is because of ranked choice voting. It's either between Anora or Complete Unknown for me, to be honest. I think those are two. I think analyzing the industry chatter in the past few days has really, Anora has kind of risen to the top as the one. And I think narratives propel themselves. And I think the awards blitz is in and of itself its own industry in this town. And I think Anora is really pulling the weight there. Now, in my heart of hearts, this might sound out of left field, but I would love a Wicked to win.
Wow.
I would love, I mean, as someone who is a huge fan of indie film, I think there's something to be said about a big studio blockbuster that just celebrates movies in a way that, like, you know how they gave the Blockbuster Award a few years ago to Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah, I think people voted for that on Twitter, which you may know as X.
I think, like, we want that in a movie. I feel like you just want to hold that up as an example of what movies can still be. And, yeah, it's loud and colorful and campy, but, like, that's like half of why we go to the theater. And it was such a communal experience to be in a theater with people who loved this piece of IP, who love these actresses, and we can get into that later too on some of these best actresses and supporting actresses. I'm kind of here for it. I'm kind of here for like the traditional studio darling winning this instead of like, and I love this film too, but like the Coda, the small indie that is focused on the family or the individual. Like those stories are also present in Wicked.
Yeah. I think I kind of love that. And I love that because there has been, for whatever reason, in Hollywood awards, this move over the past 20 years, let's say since the Lord of the Rings won Best Picture, where they have decided that movies that are popular are not awards worthy. And that there is a difference between something that people like and something that is high art that should be rewarded. And I just think that that's kind of crap, really. And like you look at something like the Grammys, and I don't know anything about music, and I can't believe I brought up the Grammys twice on this podcast already, but the Grammys does a good job of rewarding popular artists. And people like the Grammys because their favorite singers and artists win awards. And that like does not happen for the vast majority of people who might decide they want to tune in to the Academy Awards. So while I'm going to have a different answer than you for that, but I totally get it, and I totally agree that we need more popular films to win awards. As for me, in this list, I think there's a lot of good things. I don't know how much I'm like convinced that one film is going to win, and I think that speaks to just how wide open this race is. But like you, I was between Anora and A Complete Unknown, and I actually went Complete Unknown.
Ooh.
And I don't know if that's my personal bias speaking. Totally could be. I enjoyed A Complete Unknown a little bit better than I did Anora. But I think that it has exactly what you said. In a ranked choice environment, you have all the people, so many people having a great time coming out of it. I think the argument against it is that Anora has shown strength recently. We had that weekend where it won DGA, PGA, and whatever other show was that weekend. It's got the movement with it right now. And A Complete Unknown, it had some early movement. It had good movement. But then, Timothée Chalamet's campaign has kind of fizzled, and that whole A Complete Unknown is running on the back of him, and he's running a bit of a different campaign, which may speak to that. But I still think a lot of the traditional Academy voters are going to be putting this film really high. We'll see, but that's what I'm going for right now. If you asked me a few weeks ago, I might have said Emilia Perez, but I think that campaign is kind of in the toilet now for a lot of reasons. But we don't have to get into that immediately because I want to talk about my heart and soul and what I feel deep down inside. And first and foremost, I'm going to caveat it by saying that what I wanted to win Best Picture is not even nominated. I was a Sing Sing boy from the beginning. Hands down, a travesty it is not here. An absolute shame. I love that film. I saw it with my grandma. She loved it. It was a great time at the movies. We love the movies. I can't even get into it. It's a great film. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. But absolutely. Among this list, among these films, I think I would really love to see a Nickel Boys, to be honest. I think that it's not for everybody. And when people are asking me what movies they should check out, among my normie friends, I would never tell them to go see Nickel Boys. I barely would tell anybody to go see Nickel Boys. But for me, I thought it was so daring and interesting and fascinating. I'm a little biased because I read the book. I like the book a lot. But, I thought it came together in a way that was wholly unexpected and really delightful. Delightful is a funny word for a movie with that sort of subject matter. So I'm going to take that one back. But I really got a lot out of that movie. And in my heart of hearts, that would have been my pick. I don't think there's any chance that actually comes out on top. I would not put money on that. But, Anora, A Complete Unknown, I think we got some pretty good picks here.
I agree with you. Just to recap, I'm on what would our prediction for what will probably win for me is Anora. For Zach is A Complete Unknown, and our Heart of Hearts pick, mine is Wicked, and Zach is Nickel Boys. And I have to also give laurels to Sing Sing for this. That movie was my favorite of the year, and I think it is a snub that the Oscar voting team or the selection team did not select it. I also really like Didi. I know Didi is a smaller film. I think it was produced for $600,000. I think really? So. Wow. So I think there's a threshold for the Independent Spirit Awards for an indie under $600,000.
Okay.
But
right, you get those.
I get those screeners. Right? I do get those screeners. Do you get the screeners?
No, I don't. I'm not cool enough. I don't know. I think they might tariff them if they try and send them across the border. So
you're gonna get the police called on you. The Mounties.
Mounties.
The Mounties. No, I think Sing Sing. I mean, I was rooting for Sing Sing, and it appeals to like my film bro sense too. It was shot on film, right? On this tangible medium that you can see. You can see the imperfection in it, which I think just enhances the whole story. I thought Coleman Domingo was an incredible power in that movie. But yeah, so maybe in our Heart of Hearts, Sing Sing.
The Triple Heart.
The Triple Heart.
I didn't know we were going Triple Heart today, but I'm glad we did.
You rarely go Triple Heart, but when you do, we
don't mess around. All right. Well, that's Best Picture. What's next?
Let's do the actors and actresses.
All right.
I mean, we could talk about director, but director, I think, in some ways, is kind of wrapped into Best Picture. It is not.
I would agree with that. Let's get into the actors.
It's not common that a director will win and a Best Picture will not win, or vice versa. It happens. It's happened recently, but for the most part, those are awarded in tandem. So I think let's get into the best actor and actresses, and there are some controversies here, definitely. We can talk about actor first.
Sure.
Adrian Brody and AI Hungarian accents. We have Timothée Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing, Ray Fiennes in Conclave, and Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice. But let's dive into the actor.
All right. Well, when I look at this, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to put the question to you. Like, how are you feeling about the list in general? Do you think it's representative of like the performances of the year that have stood out to you? And if yes, why? If no, why? And who's your favorite? Both. Let's do the favorite to win and the Heart of Hearts.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a great list. I think these are all very strong performances. I am not sure who I would swap out here. I'm trying to remember who had big performances this year that's not on this list. But what we do have here is really strong. Adrian Brody is very clearly like, he's not carrying that movie because that's an insult to that movie, but like that movie revolves around him in a way that is really captivating. He's like, the brutalist, that he is the titular character.
Adrian Brody is the brutalist.
Yeah, in a way that actually, all except maybe Ray Fiennes for Conclave, these movies very much center strongly around these characters. And I think like that doesn't always happen. Sometimes, the leading role is not in every single scene. They're just in most of the scenes, but most of these performances are like overbearing in their movies, which I think is exciting. I think Timothée Chalamet did a great job in A Complete Unknown as Bob Dylan. Do I think that he should win for it? I don't know. It's kind of a funny thing because he's just like singing most of the movie. You know what I mean? And it's great, and that's hard. That's not easy stuff, but it's a little apples to oranges to try to compare a primarily stage performance style performance versus something like Conclave or Ralph Fiennes in Conclave or Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice, which are like being people out in the world doing things, especially Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice. I thought he did a really good job in The Apprentice. I did. It wasn't my favorite movie, but I think he did a great job. Does any of these performances especially stand out to you?
Yeah, I would say Adrian Brody, definitely. I agree with you. Adrian Brody is the brutalist. He made doing heroin look cool. I would also say Chalamet, I thought was a really good Bob Dylan, but to your point, he did like a Bob Dylan voice and then mostly singing, which was great and it's hard to do. It felt similar to, Elvis a few years ago, but with less singing, and Elvis had less singing and more acting. This was much more singing heavy, which I enjoyed as film wise, but I understand, and like I can appreciate the art and the challenge behind it. I think Sebastian Stan is long due for some of the work that he's done, and I think The Apprentice and A Different Man are both really good examples of that. But I look at this list and I can see Brody winning, I can see Chalamet winning, but I think Coleman Domingo gave such a tour de force performance in Sing Sing that maybe that's my heart of hearts choice, and my who will probably win is Adrian Brody. I think this Hungarian accent thing is a little overblown. I think the industry has already moved past it, and moving past it with 2 weeks left is fine. It's like kind of what you were talking about Chalamet's PR campaign. It peaked a little too early. And I think when it comes down to that matters. I mean, there wouldn't be a whole industry around it if it didn't matter and didn't sway voters.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, to Chalamet's credit, maybe to his detriment, he is running and ran a very unusual campaign, let's say. He's not doing a lot of the classic sit-down interviews in the way that Adrian Brody is. He is out there talking to anybody that will talk to him. Timothy Chalamet is doing a lot of really interesting stuff. He was on some football thing that I know nothing about, but that reached me in my bubble, so that it did well. I don't know, did you see that thing he put out? Like, he was in like a warehouse listening to music, like rolling around on the floor. Like, it was like weird stuff that is like getting attention and going on like big podcasts. It's really interesting to see like how maybe the next generation is going to be campaigning, I guess, as one of the youngest nominees that we've seen in that category. But I also will agree with you about Coleman Domingo. And I think that Coleman Domingo is really just like an extraordinary actor. Not that any of these people aren't, but like he is consistently turning in these wonderful performances. I don't know if you saw Rustin from the past, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but playing Rustin, Bayard Rustin, an activist in I believe like the late 60s in America, and what a performance that was. And here he is just knocking it out of the park again with another smaller film that just allows him to really sink his teeth into it and show us what he's capable of. And he consistently does not disappoint. I think it's
I totally agree.
It's very exciting. So all that being said, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, even when he's put into bigger films, like in The Color Purple, for instance, he was fantastic.
Who's taking home the statue, and who, in your heart of hearts, do you want to give the statue to?
I think Brody will take it home. I think Coleman Domingo will take home my heart.
Boom, boom, boom.
How about you?
Well, in an act of selfless, terrible podcasting, I'm going to echo your sentiments exactly.
You know what they say, no conflict, no interest.
Yeah, Adrian Brody definitely seems to be the one that's going to go all the way. Sing Sing was really just something else. But that's okay. Sometimes we like what happens and sometimes we don't. That's all part of the fun. Let's talk about actresses. Speaking of things that we sometimes like and don't, how do you feel about this list? We have Cynthia Erivo playing Elphaba in Wicked. We have Carla Sofia Gascon in Emilia Perez in the titular role. We have Mikey Madison in the titular role of Honora. We have Demi Moore in The Substance for a character whose name I have forgotten. And we have Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here. Likewise, I should not have started this trend of saying the character names because I don't remember that one either. They were great performances. It's a good list. How did you experience these films?
Well, on the caveat that I haven't seen The Substance, so I can't comment on Demi Moore's performance. I can comment on her campaign, and it seems to have been very, very, very well received. Not only leading to a Golden Globe win, but there is this like myth created about her that she's never really got her laurels when she was younger, which I think is false. She was a very popular actress when she was younger, but has wandered in the wilderness for a bit and is now back in this role that is has a strong commentary on what it means to be an aging woman in an industry that is focused on looks and focused on beauty standards. I think the clear for me, far and away, is Mikey. I think Mikey Madison, in the same way, like Adrian Brody is a brutalist, Mikey Madison is Honora. Not only is she Honora, but the film revolves around her. It is her story. It is, not to borrow what would probably be PR phrasing, but it's a Cinderella story. It's a modern Cinderella story in a way. That I thought she was by far the strongest character in that movie. I liked some of the other humor and some of their characters. We'll get into that because Yura was also nominated in Best Supporting. But I think if I'm comparing all these other performances, I think Mikey did it really well. I think Cynthia, no one can question her acting and singing chops. But I think Cynthia's working from a place of disadvantage too. Like, she is so good that you just come to expect near perfection from her. And so when you're someone new on the block, and you see this role that is a little bit raw on the edges, a little bit rough, a little bit at times, it works in the film. I think like you're just drawn to it in a way that like Cynthia seems so untouchable. I mean, if it was just like pure talent alone, I think Cynthia Erivo takes it. But I think given the actress is, you don't rank them. Let me back up there. You don't rank these actresses outside the medium or movie or context in which they give their performances. You have to take them in that performance. So I think given that, you can't. Cynthia Erivo exists in this Wicked performance, which was great. But Mikey Madison exists in this performance that I think accentuates her character so much more than I think it did Cynthia Erivo's character, given the story and the script, at least in the first part.
I think that's very well said. And certainly in the case of Cynthia Erivo, like, Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba in Wicked is not the only fantastic performance in that movie, and she's surrounded by a whole series of fantastic performances that, in a way that I think, Mikey Madison and Honora is, like, your eye is just drawn to her in every frame. Like, it's a bit magnetic that way. But with Cynthia Erivo, because there's these wonderful supporting performances all around her, like, your eye is drawn to them too, and in that context, kind of takes away from it sometimes a little bit. Not that it's not a fantastic performance, because it absolutely is, but when there's other shiny performances to look at, it makes it tricky, I think that this race is maybe the most interesting one, and without even really touching too much the Carla Sofia Gascon of it all, it just keeps twisting and turning. I think for a long time, people thought that Carla had this wrapped up, or you know, in competition with Mikey, but then Demi Moore won at the Golden Globes and just kind of upended the race. And, you know, like you said, there's a bit of a redemption story of sorts with her there. It seems that in this category, we tend to reward the new kid on the block or the late career surge. And it seems like, you know, Demi Moore certainly has the latter going on. I think just by virtue of the film that Demi Moore, is it Demi Moore or Demi Moore?
If you know, please write us at ben@gmail.com.
Thank you, listener. Singular. Demi Moore, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to do both. Demi Moore in The Substance is really unique because I think it captures two key voting blocks. I think you have maybe some of the longer serving Academy members, some of the older folks who have known Demi Moore for a long time, her performances for a long time. They remember back in the day when she was the new kid on the block, and now they still know her and they have a lot of affinity for her, and you know, they like to look back on that career. That means something to them, that relationship they have with her. On the other hand, you have The Substance as the vehicle for that performance, which is, dare I say, like the zaniest Best Picture nominee we've ever had, like the most out there. Like, when has a movie like that ever been nominated for Best Picture? You know what I mean? And that is capturing a completely different demographic. And between those two groups, I think you have a very powerful voting block for this performance. But, you know, we'll see how that works out because there's a lot of good performances here.
Who do you think is taking the cake?
You ask a good question, Ben. I think it's probably going to be Demi Moore.
Wow, over Mikey.
Oh, but I feel it's tough. If you asked me a week ago, I would have been pretty confident. But with these recent Anora wins, it's tough. I also think there's an outside chance for Fernanda Torres.
Really?
Mm-hmm. She won at the Golden Globes, and there's a good story there too. Her mother won way back when, or was nominated. I can't remember.
Yeah, but the Golden Globes is made up of the Hollywood Foreign Press. Like, it's how I don't know what the makeup between foreign voters and domestic voters are, but like, how many domestic voters are actually watching I'm Still Here?
I hear you. This is a good point. The Academy is more international than it used to be. It's a good point. All I'm speaking to is I feel like there's some chatter of late. It's an outside chance. I'm not predicting it. I think personally, my heart performance is probably Mikey. I think it's just a very unique performance. Like, when have you seen a character like that? You know what I mean? And she does such a good job. And she also has going for her that she's not super well known to people. So she embodies this performance. Like, Mikey is Anora, Anora is Mikey, in a way that some of these other actresses, you know, outside of their characters, or you can tell that their interview persona is very different from their on-screen persona. And that's definitely the case with Mikey too. But I think you just associate it so strongly together that it's hard to ignore.
Totally. I feel that. And like, I think for me, both Front Runner and Heart of Heart is going to be Mikey for me. So yeah, I get it.
You got it all.
So that was part 1 of our show. Please keep eyes peeled for part 2 coming at you later this week.
It's action on your favorite two old friends, breaking down cinema's latest trends, looking at movies from a different lens. Zach and Ben are picture pals.